There is no stronger bond than the one between mothers and children. Indeed, fathers also play a fundamental role in their children's lives and development, but they cannot surpass the connection a mother establishes with her baby from the very start. This love is born when they cannot even see each other, yet they already know they can't live without one another. So can the strength of this maternal love overcome any obstacle, even death? Can someone remain by your side forever even when they're gone? The protagonist of our story grappled with these questions, uncertain of what to believe until her mother revealed the truth to her. Marie was 22 years old and the only daughter of Camille Bernat, a successful lawyer and single mother of 45 who lived a quiet and well-to-do life with her daughter in the city of Paris. For this young Parisian fine arts student, passionate about painting, classical music, and contemporary art, it was impossible to imagine how her life would change in just a few months, and the terrible events she would have to face with her greatest and only support, her mother. Marie and her mother's life was everything anyone could wish for, full of money, luxury, and comfort. However, as grateful as Camille and her daughter were to be able to enjoy the good life, they never let the advantages they enjoyed define their character or distort their view of the world. And it is important to mention that Camille, before becoming one of the best lawyers in Paris, barely had enough money to pay for the rent of the small apartment, and her parents' relationship was terrible. A challenge for which she clearly didn't feel prepared, but she managed to get out of it despite all the obstacles. The way she got everything she now owns is what makes Camille Bernat the way she is, and not the other way around. And that is exactly what she wanted to teach her daughter since she was very young. Be humble, be grateful for what you have, and take care of it. Life is a gift that you enjoy when you learn to value what you deserve. The relationship between mother and daughter was always great. Marie and her mother were always inseparable, even during Marie's teenage years, and they considered themselves best friends. Marie was always very aware that everything she had was thanks to her mother's effort and perseverance, something that made her never feel superior to anyone else for being able to wear expensive clothes or attend the best schools. The young girl grew up developing an affable and cordial character, thanks in part to the strong bond she had with her mother, who taught her that humility and empathy can take us much further than a wallet full of bills. A precious bond of love that unfortunately wouldn't last as long as they would have wished, because of terrible news that would turn their whole lives upside down and would make them feel even more united. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. Everything started to go wrong when Marie was about to graduate from the Academy of Fine Arts. In the last few weeks, she'd seen very little of her mother because of a case that had kept her very busy, and also because she'd been immersed in preparing for the last 2 final exams of her degree and had barely taken a moment to rest. Maybe that's why it took her so long to realize something very bad was happening to her mother, but it was impossible for her to guess. Not even her mother was aware of it until it was too late. Too much work had led Mrs. Bernat to neglect herself and not take the time to evaluate her health, which was getting worse with each passing day. Finally, after her daughter's insistence and having to miss a couple of meetings several times because she was unable to stand up, Camille accepted that she was not feeling well and went to the doctor for an examination. When the doctor called to give them the results, he didn't have good news. Camille had very advanced leukemia with chances of survival at 20% if she started treatment immediately, but they couldn't give her any assurances. The disease was progressing at a frightening pace and her immune system was very weakened. It would take a miracle for Mrs. Bernat to be saved. A miracle that unfortunately never happened. Camille's struggle with cancer lasted almost a year, but as the doctors warned her, the disease was too advanced and the terrible outcome couldn't be avoided. Marie remained by her mother's side at all times, watching her struggle with all her strength to overcome a disease that started with all the advantages and that little by little was consuming her. Finally, after 11 months of struggle and continuous ups and downs, Camille died in the hospital with the great love of her life, her daughter Marie. She refused to receive any further treatment after the last relapse and didn't want to receive visits from friends and family because she refused to be seen and remembered by others in that state. Be strong, my child. Mommy has to go now, but I assure you that I will never stop watching over you. You must go on, Marie. Live for me, my love. These were the last words Camille said to her daughter shortly before she closed her eyes and breathed her last. Marie was devastated and didn't have the strength to carry out her mother's last wishes. However, during her funeral, something unforeseen would happen that would make her realize that her mother was closer than she had ever imagined. Marie had just lost her mother and felt more alone than ever in the world. She had friends and family, but her best friend, her soulmate and the one who'd been with her all her life was gone. Her mother was gone, leaving her with a terrible void that she could never fill, or at least that's what she felt at that moment. The day after her death, and making a great effort to stay strong and not burst into tears every 5 minutes, Marie organized her mother's funeral. It would be a simple ceremony, honoring her mother's humble and selfless lifestyle and character, to be held in a small mortuary in the west of Paris. And it would be precisely during that sad day when Marie would have the biggest surprise of all. one capable of restoring joy to her heart. When the time came for the funeral, full of sadness and tears, friends and family were present to support Marie in this difficult moment and to show their support for everything she needed. She felt very fortunate that so many good people had always surrounded them and had helped her and her mother so much, although none of those good people could make her feel better at that moment. None of them were her mother, and her voice was the only thing she wished she could hear again, and she might not have to wait too long to do so. During the funeral, Marie took her mother's phone and placed it gently on the casket next to her beloved mother. Not a customary gesture, but it was her way of keeping their connection that even in death could not be completely severed. A small gesture that would end up becoming something much bigger and with a deep meaning for Marie. After the ceremony, everyone dispersed, leaving Marie alone with her thoughts and memories. She was exhausted and just wanted to lie down on her bed and be able to sleep for more than 3 hours at a time, something she'd been doing for far too long and which was beginning to seriously affect her physical and mental health. What would happen the next morning would leave you speechless. Upon waking up, Marie tried to get back to normal and start doing the things she always did. Take a shower, clean the house a bit, make herself a cup of coffee and read the newspaper. However, while Marie was trying to find some peace in her grief and was having a cup of hot coffee, something totally unexpected happened that would awaken her from the lethargy she had sunk into since her mother's death. Her phone had started ringing and Marie quickly answered it, barely realizing who was calling her. Upon doing so and hearing who had called her, Marie was speechless and tears began to fall down her cheeks. On the other end of the line, a familiar voice sounded, a voice she thought she would never hear again. It was the sweet sound of her mother's voice saying goodbye to her. "Mom, is that you?" answered Marie in tears, listening attentively to what her mother was saying. Marie knew it was impossible that her mother was calling her, but she wanted so badly to see her and hear her voice that when she heard her mother speak into the phone, she thought it was really her, and she had come back to be by her side. Astonished and overwhelmed, Marie listened intently to the messages recorded on her phone. They were messages of love, wise advice, and words of encouragement recorded by her mother shortly before she died. Her mother, foreseeing her imminent departure, had left a series of messages to say goodbye to her daughter and make her absence more bearable. Marie lost track of time, listening to her mother's voice on the other end of the phone. She spent hours sitting on the couch listening to all the messages her mother had left over and over again. In total, Camille Burnett had recorded and programmed up to 8 messages, each with a different message that her daughter might hear at different times in her life when she needed her mother's advice. They were all precious messages that made Marie feel her mother closer, but there was one in particular that made her realize how much she would miss her mother, and that the great love they both felt and united them would never be broken. In the message, Camille told her, "This message is for the day you become a mother. On that day, my dear, you will discover that people can love someone above all things, and that everything around us, all the other things that before seemed important to us and worried us, become secondary. Being a mother will be the greatest lesson of life and love that you will ever experience. I lived it with you, and I feel deeply grateful to have been your mother and that you chose me to be your mother. The love I felt when I looked at you for the first time is unmatched by any other feeling I have ever felt. When I met you, I knew I would never be alone again, because you had come into the world to give meaning to my life and all the mistakes I had made before. And that is what I wish for you, my little Marie. I wish you the same happiness, love, and pride that I feel now for having met you and for having been your mother. We will always be together, my love. Always," Camille said in her message. In that time of grief and loss, Marie found unexpected comfort in those precious recordings. Although her mother was no longer physically present, her loving voice would continue to guide and comfort her through all of life's challenges. Marie would never be alone again, she now knew. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.